Today on The Cooler, we're going to discuss the life and legend of Tom Petty. All right, so we lost Tom Petty on October 2nd, just 18 days short of his 67th birthday, which would have been October 20th, 1950. Petty was born in Gainesville, Florida, true Southerner. I think that's where he gets the moniker of Southern rock from. Just an icon that's gone, and we've lost him too soon.
Yeah, so just to give a little context to this particular episode we're doing, this is our third stab at doing this show. We ran into numerous technical difficulties, and we just all felt collectively that we just weren't going to give this topic much respect if we didn't make sure that we did it correct.
Maybe it's the ghost of Tom Petty coming back to eat the scripts.
Yeah, exactly.
Could be.
But no, we definitely want to do it right and do it justice.
So I actually want to start off with Todd and find out, what is your first recollection or first encounter with Mr. Tom Petty?
It would probably be the Wilburys. That was one of the first. I mean, I'd heard Tom Petty songs before, but what really drew me in was the song that he did with the Wilburys, and it was his most popular one, Handle with Care.
Oh, yeah.
Really liked everything about that song. It's funny that you have those guys together. You've got Harrison, Orbison, Jeff Lynne, Bob Dylan, and you have all these guys that have these unique voices, and that they made them harmonize. It was so unique to have those guys with a harmony. I mean, it was just amazing.
Yeah.
They were all guitarists. I mean, what a great approach to music.
So your introduction to Petty was when he was at his strongest collaborative-wise. I mean, he had a lot of huge monsters of music that he was now gathered with. So you came in at a really good time to be attracted to Tom Petty's music.
I enjoyed it. I mean, it was just great music. They did a version of Runaway, Del Shannon's Runaway, and it was so cool to hear the influence from the Beatles through Harrison, and then the ELO aspect of that song. Right. It was just amazing that you could pick up and hear the influences from those guys.
It just goes to show Petty's loyalty to his friends. I mean, influence, or actually a hero of his, was Del Shannon. And one thing I didn't know until recently was that they wanted Del Shannon to take Roy Orbison's place.
Wow.
That'd have been cool.
Yeah, and then unfortunately Shannon's not with us anymore, and that never came to fruition. But it was just a testament to Tom Petty's his craft and style, and also his friends. He was really, he sought out his heroes, his musical heroes, and they always called him the ultimate collaborator. Mm-hmm. He was one of those guys that when he got into a song, it was just something you could connect with.
So, Ken, what's your first experience or first interest that with Tom Petty that piqued you?
American Girl. To me, we were talking earlier, and when somebody says Tom Petty's name, that's the first song that jumps in my head.
And Fast Times at Richmond High.
Absolutely. I mean, that movie fit teen America.
Sure.
If Petty music can be described as anything, it would take you to a place and a time, and you would smile.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what I enjoyed about everything about Tom Petty music. It was just, how do you go wrong with all the hits that he's put out there?
Now, for me, I'm a little bit more colorful because my first interaction or my first experience with Petty was through Casey Kasem's America's Top 10 weekly countdown.
Right.
As 1978, and there was this new band making waves, and I don't recall what place he fell in on that top 10. Refugee was the song that was being was making all the radio play.
See, I remember that as a kid, but I couldn't have told you who sung it. You know what I mean?
And my brother actually was a bigger fan than Petty and Damn the Torpedoes than I was.
Yeah.
So my attraction to him would come much later, more in high school. So, but he was also the main reason why I actually picked up the guitar. So,
wow.
From a guitar player's standpoint, the simple chord progressions were something that would actually encourage a guitar player to continue playing. It was just something you could just sit down and play.
But it was good to listen to. As simple as it was such great music.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt. Let's talk a little bit about early Tom Petty. Let's talk about Tom Petty, the young man, the boy. His musical influences, how he got started in music. And I found it interesting that Elvis Presley was actually his muse to get into the music world. He saw him I guess his uncle was a set designer or set builder in Ocala, Florida. And he saw Elvis.
Yeah, I did read about that.
Which is odd because his music doesn't emulate Elvis music
No,
at all.
whatsoever.
not at all.
Yeah. And I guess shortly thereafter, he got his guitar. And it was kind of neat to find out that Don Felder was one of his early guitar instructors.
Yeah.
That kind of tells you a little bit about the man. I mean, it really does. His style, anyway.
It really sticks with the Southern rock genre, that's for sure. Again, it'll let you see where the influences come from.
Well, I know his musical interest came a lot from the Byrds. Roger McGuinn, that
Chris
kind of
Hillman,
that jangly guitar.
Yeah. Now, see, I can see a lot more of that in his music than I could Elvis. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I can't think of any instance where an Elvis, other than the fact that he was a magnetic personality, maybe.
Right.
And he just liked the fact that this guy was playing guitar singing.
Right.
Even in interviews, he'll talk about his childhood and his exposure to country music, and he's very quickly to point out that the country music that he listened to is not the country music that you're listening to these days. And he's very adamant about making sure that nobody confuses country music today versus country music when...
Yeah.
The word I always heard was Americana.
Yeah.
Tom Petty was about Americana. Mm-hmm. At one time he did a song called Rebels.
Yes.
And he took some heat years later. It's really funny how the world is with these musicians and these actors. He had a rebel flag on the stage. It was a Southern rock band.
Yeah.
And he took a lot of criticism for that, which years later, he actually came out and says, look, it wasn't anything other than it was just a flag. And, it's just unfortunate, but his connection to the South is the lifeblood of his music.
Sure.
When I was in high school, naturally, Damn the Torpedoes was one of the first albums I remember. Don't recall what followed it, but Long After Dark was probably out of all his albums, probably not one of my least favorite. Didn't have a whole lot of commercial success, but two albums actually three. Southern Accents was one right about when Farm Aid was starting to kick off and become a thing. Feeds back into the Americana thing that you're talking about. The American farmer was suffering, and there was a song on there called Spike, and that kind of.
Yeah, that's a good song.
Spike was kind of a slap in the face for somebody who was of that particular personality that you have to really listen to the song. But
Yeah.
between that album and then when Tom decided to take a break and came out with Full Moon Fever
As a solo.
and he had already sort of met with the guys that would become the Traveling Wilburys. And he kind of drew on all those influences to create this, in my opinion, was a phenomenal album, with the exception of Zombie Zoo, which even
Right.
Tom will tell you was a horrible freaking song. And he said he had thrown away better songs than that.
But so much good stuff on there. I mean, you got I Won't Back Down,
Sure.
Free Falling, Running Down a Dream. I mean, great, iconic Petty songs. To me, that's like the peak of Petty, even when he wasn't with his band.
Right.
Just doing a solo career. To
Well,
me, that was the peak of Petty.
They were so well that even some of the movie industry included some of Petty's songs in
they
those.
ate it up.
They ate it up, exactly.
Commercials, movies. I mean, I Won't Back Down.
Right.
Yeah.
They play that to this day. They played it after the Las Vegas shootings.
Right.
Right.
Don't
Somebody.
even get me freaking started.
Yeah, I
on
know.
that.
But
God.
the whole thing about, it's funny because that song came about when somebody tried to burn his house down.
Yes.
Yeah.
The famous,
Yeah.
the thing that he
It was
saved.
back in '87 or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
He was able to salvage one of his prized guitars from that studio. But you learn a lot from him through various interviews that are available. Just get a little bit of insight into what made Tom Petty tick.
Right. Well, it's just interesting that the type of music that he did produce, going back and we were talking about that, which struck me as just great cruising music.
Sure.
Something you did a lot of in the South, again, pointing back to the Southern rock
Oh yeah.
anthem music that we grew up on.
Right.
Man, just great cruising songs. That's back when cars were cool. That's back when you could pop a Tom Petty tape in and just cruise. You could listen to the whole thing.
Right.
A side, B side, it didn't matter. You just pop it in and go.
Yeah,
skipping the zombie song, of course.
Yeah, kids nowadays, they just don't know how good they have it with DVDs and electric media.
Right.
I mean, back then we had 8 tracks and cassettes. That band had to be good.
And we had to keep pens around so we could, just in case that tape somehow got eaten by the cassette tape machine.
Right.
I remember having to learn to like songs on some tapes. It's like, I'm going to begrudgingly learn to like this song.
Because fast forward always got you in trouble.
That's what got you there.
Yeah, it would jam a tape up, and back then they were $11 and $12,
right.
which is like $30 now.
Yes.
And it was crazy. Yeah, it was. There was a lot to those.
Oh yeah. So now let's favorite song, album, collaboration. Where do you land there?
Man, I'm going to have to go with Mary Jane's Last Dance. To me, I know it's later in his career, and I've said this before, Petty just got better with age. The older that guy got, the better his music got. And granted, that's not at the end of his career, but for whatever reason, the darkness of that song just spoke, man. I just dug that song.
Sure.
It comes across as a drug song. Most people equate it to a drug song because of the name. And actually, the funny thing about the name is the name was going to be something different. He wanted to call it Indiana Girl,
right,
because the whole song is laced with that in the lyrics. And Rick Rubin got hold of it and said, "Nah, that's too cliche. I don't want to do that." Rick's like, "Let's call it something else." So they came up with Mary Jane's Last Dance. And again, the chord progression is very unique in that song. I like it. It's dark. The video is great. I like the video to the song. Mm-hmm. It really, to me, that's really what speaks to what the song was really about. Sure. Not necessarily smoke and grass, but just the whole deep, dark side of some of Petty's psyche. I don't know where he came up with that, but it was great. I dug it. I liked everything about it.
How about you, Cam?
Well, his most recent song, "Somewhere Under Heaven," is probably my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
I heard it on the soundtrack of the movie Entourage and got to reading it and learning a little bit about it and didn't realize that it was a song that they did in 1994 originally when they were doing the Wildflowers album.
Well, like Tom Petty said, is he's put away better songs that have just sat for years until he figured out when a good time for it.
And again, it goes to how much better he got with age.
Sure.
Well, I was glad he pulled that out because when him and Mike Campbell wrote this and then retracked it, I put it up there with one of my favorite guitar ballads. I just like the power of that guitar.
Sure.
I think for me, "Learning to Fly," is one of my favorite songs. "Free Falling."
Running down a dream. That was my close second right there.
The Waiting. When you listen to songs like "The Waiting" and all those things like that, it was from different collaborations. I think I really like the one he did, "Biding Time" with Chris Hillman. Mm-hmm. Luckily, he did that before he passed. That's a gem we definitely get to hold on to. Johnny Cash, of all people, the Man in Black, Tom Petty, did a song with Johnny Cash in '96, "The Running Kind." The thing I like about Cash and Petty together is they're both iconic in their areas of music. I mean, they're the kind of guys that bucked the corporations.
Yeah, they're definitely trailblazers.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about that collaboration, because they were both like, you know what, give the middle finger to the man.
Yeah.
We're our own musicians, and we're doing it our way.
Yeah, Petty was fiercely... He made sure that he maintained artistic control over everything that he did. Or he went through and he earned the ability to be able to tell studios, "Hey, I know how you wanted to do it, but this is how it's going to happen."
Right.
One of my favorite quotes from Tom Petty was, "I didn't write my songs to be orange juice commercials."
Beautiful.
I love that. And this is the guy from Florida, the orange juice capital of the world.
Right.
And I really, he didn't let corporate sponsors take over his tours. He wanted the fans to be able to enjoy the music. He even got into a legal battle with a record label over $1.
Oh yeah, the old superstar tax.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, when Petty's coming up through the 70s, he's coming up through a time when music for the most part was either something you heard through the radio or you went to a concert, and video was just slowly making its way into households.
Well, many people would argue on the video aspect that that was MTV, actually. There was people precursor to it. There was a group out of Carmel, California, with a show called Pop Clips. that was basically video driven. It was on Nickelodeon Channel of all places.
How funny!
And then you get MTV, and it took the musician from laying down tracks on cassettes and albums to producing full blown videos. And what's really funny is Petty found a way to make that work for him.
Yes.
Because the whole Alice in Wonderland, Don't Come Around Here Anymore, some of those videos are iconic.
He had some of the most creative, that's for sure.
Right.
And it was all based on what you were talking about earlier, him coming up through the ranks, paying his dues, working that, taking fans in consideration. And I think that's the biggest thing I take away from his style, is that he is a fan-first guy.
Right.
When he writes, when he entertains, when he makes whatever he's doing, he wants to make sure that the fans are going to like that. And that's what really brings you into Tom Petty.
The two iconic albums for me are Full Moon Fever, which, like I said, just great tracks, great crew that helped put that music together. And if that record was a child and it grew up to be Wildflowers.
Right.
Yeah.
Wildflowers to me was is a CD that I'll play over and over and over again. All the tracks on it were just outstanding, just well-written songs. Great musicians played on the making of that record. Just nothing really comes close to what that CD means to me.
I'm hoping that there's a lot of releases of these songs that didn't get put out, because I got a feeling there's some fantastic gems in there. Knowing this guy, his catalog of music is incredible.
Oh, yes.
It's funny, speaking of tributes, the one thing that I remember most about Tom Petty was the 2004 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he was on stage with George Harrison's son.
Ooh.
and Prince, and all all the people he played with were on stage, and they did My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one.
Which was a phenomenal
God.
Prince solo as well. Dude,
Yeah.
he crushed it. Another artist that we lost I'm sad he's gone.
Yeah, gone too soon.
Yeah.
Another rebel, too, by the way.
Very talented. Yeah. The talent in that guy. I mean, again, it's almost comparable with Petty, the amount of talent that was there, and how his career went just up. It went up as he went along instead of, most bands start out great, and they just fall off. Between those two guys, they kind of paired each other, and it just goes up from there.
And they have a lot of similar views towards the corporate record labels.
Yeah,
I mean, that whole former artist formerly known as Prince, when he basically was under contract, he goes, I'm going to put out some real junk, and when I got this thing, you guys are going to get some good music.
Right. Exactly.
Tom Petty, early in his career, when they wanted to pull Petty away from his band.
Right.
He found a way to get all his friends back in it with him. And that's, to me, that's what the music industry is about. It's not the crap we get today.
Right.
The formulaic crap. And that's what I'm going to miss most about Tom Petty, is the fact that Tom was the driver of his fan bus.
It's cool to look at the strategy. You know what I mean? The guy really had to work a strategy to get where he was. I mean, it shows a level of intelligence.
Quiet sophistication is how I would say.
Dig that.
Yeah.
Since we've lost him, the one thing that I will say that I'm not overly pleased at is that, the artists that are out there now that are struggling or trying to make a name for themselves, for the most part, are using Tom and his catalog as a ladder. They're clamoring for any kind of track that he could put out now, that they want to put their name and their stamp on that song.
Like Coldplay.
Well, okay, the one that gets me the most was this most recent. There's actually two performances I saw here recently. While one wasn't horrible, it was not something that was in this particular art. I'm not. All I'm going to say is this material is not in this particular artist's wheelhouse, but it just kind of goes to the type of activity that I don't particularly care for with some artists. Is, hey, I'm going to attach my
say it. I want to see.
I'm going to attach my name, Miley Cyrus. I'm going to attach my name to this artist's song, and hopefully people will walk away thinking this is a memorable performance.
Yeah,
you see a lot of that right now.
The other one is, which I think was opportunistic, was the Saturday Night Live performance with Jason Aldean.
Yeah,
and him playing "I Won't Back Down," I believe, It was.
You mean Chicken Man running off the stage?
See, yeah. I don't even know.
He's taking a lot of heat for that.
I couldn't tell you who Jason Aldean is because I don't listen to his music.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, it was one of those things where, how dare you use this man who kind of paved the way and opened a lot of freaking doors.
He was walking on a grave by doing that.
Yes, he is.
You're using this man's this man's catalog,
his legacy,
as a ladder to further your career along.
Yeah, look at me.
This dude wallowed in the dirt to get to where he was. He wrote all of his own music, collaborated with anybody that he could, just because that's the kind of artist that he was.
Well, the fans redeemed that at the University of Florida, Gainesville.
During
the halftime performance, and they sang a tribute to Tom Petty.
Right.
That was the coolest thing ever. It was what, I Won't Back Down?
Yeah.
And it was the coolest. I mean, to me, that was the best tribute. That trumps anything any artist ever did on TV or stage or on the radio.
That should have been like a Guinness World Book record or something.
It was one of those moments.
Sing along.
Yeah, it was one of those moments that you just I saved it. It was that good. It was just so cool to see people come together and sing one of Tom Petty's greatest songs.
It just shows the difference between what's Plastic Banana and what's really heartfelt.
Right.
It's so cool to see the two juxtaposed to each other.
I like that Plastic Banana. I'm going to use that again. That's pretty good. Yeah, Fake Fruit. That definitely encapsulates my feeling towards Miley Cyrus.
Yeah,
well.
and I actually hope that they someday listen to this podcast, and so I can tell them, hey, fuck you, Miley Cyrus. And Jason Aldean, go
no
with
use
the
for
dick.
either one of you.
Yeah, I'm not even going to give her another second's thought. That is the most. If I was her dad, I'd slap her mama.
And that's the other thing is old freaking Billy Ray was sitting there in a chair playing a guitar. And that
he can play guitar.
Yeah, so
I didn't know that.
Well, he can play guitar according to a camera.
Yeah, because Achy Breaky Heart is what, 3 chords?
Oh my god, just fucking horrible.
Tom Petty never covered that. Did anybody notice? Tom Petty never covered the Achy Breaky Heart.
That is hysterical. Yeah,
never did it. There's a Southern rock guy. So.
Well, all I know
tells you a little bit about that guy's music.
Yeah, 40 years of phenomenal music.
Yeah.
From a guy that shaped a lot of our early days.
Yeah.
Right.
Things we did, people we hung out with, moments in time that we get to cherish forever.
Yeah.
Which is what you look for in a musician. You take a guy that you can pick any part of a 10-year span and say, oh, that song was big. I remember that. I was when that came out. I like I said, I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss his music dearly. I wish I'd have spent more time going to more of his concerts. I just kind of quit going to concerts there for a while. But if somebody I would love to see live in a small venue, which I think that would be like an education beyond music, and I'm going to miss that. And it's unfortunate, but luckily we have these great songs that are captured now for eternity. And I look forward to spending more and more time becoming intimate with some of the songs I may not have thought about earlier.
Right.
Yeah. Well, God rest and Godspeed, Tom Petty.
Yeah. Gonna miss those songs. God rest your soul, Tom Petty.
That's all for today's podcast. Thanks for listening to The Cooler.